It's an honor and a pleasure to introduce French Cully tonight to speak to you. She's a friend. She's an important colleague. She is the Chief Purpose Officer at Highlights for Children, and she is our Editor-in-Chief. She's one of the few people that grew up wanting to be a children's magazine editor. She's been at Highlights for, I'm not supposed to say this, but I will say this, 28 years. And has overseen the content. We could do the math quickly. We've probably delivered about 1.4 billion copies of magazines to children since the start of the company. She's probably overseen almost half of that. She launched in her career a magazine for preschoolers called Highlights High Five. Think about this for a second. They're not yet readers. It now reaches nearly 1 million households each month. They're not yet readers. So print is alive. Chris has brought magic to millions and millions of children through her work. And tonight she's going to talk to you all and all of us about the history and the art of hidden pictures. Please.
Thank you, Kent. I feel really old. Well, I am kind of old, but it's been a pleasure. And really, you know, when you work with a great team, just great things happen. And I think Highlights does create magic, but that's because we have so many fantastic people who work together and collaborate to make all these great products that help kids become curious, creative, caring, and confident. And it's just been an honor to play a part in it. It really has been. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much. And Highlights is very pleased to be part of the exhibition of children's illustration at the Ohio Center for Decorative Arts, because we well know the power of words and pictures to influence kids, even hidden pictures. So for starters, let's have a show of hands. How many of you read Highlights as a child? Oh, that's great. That's everybody for those of you online. And how many of you receive Highlights in your home today? And it would look like that, or a Highlights magazine. Okay, some of you. And do we have any artists in the group? Some illustrators interested in learning about hidden pictures? Okay, we do. What about teachers? Are there any teachers in this group? Or retired teachers? Okay, all right, good. Well, how many of you, when you see a Highlights magazine or a High Five magazine, first turn to the hidden pictures or work them together with your children? Yeah, half of the people who said they get it. Well, yes, hidden pictures is arguably one of the most beloved and popular features from Highlights. Finding those cleverly hidden small common objects in a larger illustration that tells a story, often a very funny story, is a pastime that has been enjoyed by generations of children. And let's be sure to be clear here, there is no shame in grown-ups admitting that they never outgrew this pastime. If that's you, know that you are in a very big club. We hear all the time from adults who tell us how much they love solving hidden pictures. And although hidden pictures are a tentpole in our product portfolio, no one publishes them as prolifically as we do, or as well. We like to say that we are often imitated, but never duplicated. And we do have the trademark on hidden pictures puzzles, but we can't take credit for coming up with the basic concept. That actually goes way back. As far as we know, what may have been the earliest hidden picture puzzle of this type, well, actually, this is what I have written in my notes. Until this morning, I was going to tell you that the earliest hidden picture puzzle that we knew of was probably drawn by a cartoonist named E.A. Nugent, who published a book in the late 1920s with cartoony illustrations that had just a couple smaller pictures hidden within a bigger scene. And this book was probably intended mostly for adults because it was a little satirical. But we, just this afternoon, our archivist, our wonderful archivist, who is the granddaughter of the founders, when I asked her some questions, she started poking around some more. And we discovered today that the first hidden pictures probably appeared in newspapers in the early 1900s, 1902. And I was able, or she was able, to find a couple pictures, and I was able to put it in my presentation all by myself. So that's something. I wasn't sure it was going to pop up. But that's kind of what it looked like. And I think that one came from 1907. So that's pretty incredible. And we've done a lot of research in hidden pictures. And so this is a new discovery, and we're pretty excited about this. You can tell it's old art. Well, Dr. Myers, our archivist actually found in Dr. Myers, our founders, one of our co-founders, belongings, a copy of this book that I was telling you about from the cartoonist. And we believe that he was inspired by that. And he took that idea and he just blew it out. And he considered everything he knew about how children grow and learn, how they develop, what they think is fun. And he sort of elevated the art form and created the hidden pictures that, we know today. He published the first one in the very first issue of Highlights, and that's the cover on the left. And on my right is the very first hidden picture we ever published in Highlights. And we have published one in every issue since. It's pretty amazing. I mean, even though we can't claim to be the creator of the original concept, it was really a general basic puzzle concept back in the day. We have popularized this puzzle. Here we are 8 decades later, and this puzzle still has legs. And in fact, over our history at Highlights, which is now 77 years, we have created more than 10,500 hidden pictures. One hidden picture appears in some format in almost every product we create. So it's easier to appreciate the success of the hidden pictures puzzle if you know a little bit more about Dr. Myers and the Highlights history. Highlights was founded in 1946 by Dr. Gary Cleveland Myers and his wife, Caroline Clark Myers, who were both career educators. And over their lifetime, they taught all ages from children to adults. Dr. Myers had earned a doctorate in psychology, and he had a special interest in child psychology, although that wasn't officially a thing back then. Dr. Myers worked with some early women's magazines, wrote a syndicated newspaper column on parenting that appeared in more than 200 newspapers across America, and you can see a copy of that there. And he and Caroline together worked on an early kids magazine called Children's Illustrated Activities. They didn't own that, but they worked on that. And they traveled around the country talking to parents about the magazine and talking to them about children's literacy and giving parenting seminars. And as you know, the way people thought about kids and education in the 1940s was pretty different from the way we think about it today, but they had some surprisingly forward-thinking ideas back then. And they took all those ideas and they formed the foundation of the magazine that they created, Highlights. And people often ask us how we came up with the name Highlights, and that was the founders' desire or early efforts to just find the best of what was out there, what was available for children, to find the best writers, the best articles, create the best things they knew how to create, the highlights of what was available for kids. Their beliefs they had staying power too. I mean, they are surprisingly strong anchors for our work today. They believed that children are the world's most important people, and that children and childhood, which we refer to today as a short, sweet season, deserved respect. And let's pause for just a minute to take in how profound an idea that was, especially in the midst of a post-war baby boom, when the term children should be seen but not heard was still in use. They believed that children had an innate ability to think and reason at an earlier age than was commonly thought. They wanted kids to discover that thinking is fun. And they also thought it was important that kids be encouraged to create. Their respect for kids was evident in how they treated their young readers who reached out to the magazine with questions, ideas, artwork, and poems. They established regular pages in the magazine for publishing some of what they received from kids. And I like to say that that proves that highlights was interactive before the digital content people sort of co-opted that term. We were there first. So all that's fun with a purpose, that their beliefs that learning should be fun and that kids will learn best through positive example and when the learning is fun, led them to create this tagline, which you saw in the first issue of Highlights, and we still use that on our covers today. But how do hidden pictures fit under that umbrella? What does it mean to be fun with a purpose if you're a hidden picture? Well, these are the main skills that hidden pictures puzzles help kids develop. Self-confidence, attention to detail, good work habits, even concentration. Those are all necessary for children to be successful in school, and they learn those skills by doing hidden pictures. The puzzles are also great vocabulary boosters, especially for younger puzzlers and puzzlers for whom English is a second language. We have sold many, many hidden pictures books in countries where they are interested in having their children learn English, particularly Asia. Now, the other two skills we don't talk about quite as often: figure ground perception, and that's the ability to differentiate an object from its background. And you might recognize these popular brain teaser images. Do you see a vase or do you see two faces? I think the other one's harder. Do you see a duck or a rabbit? It takes me a minute to see the rabbit, right? But it's there, yeah. Well, that's figure ground perception. You see the rabbit? The bill is, did you see it? Yeah, it's tricky. It is tricky. You have to do more hidden pictures to develop that skill, I guess. Yeah. Yep, okay, she's got it. All right. That's figure ground perception. And the way we hide objects in the lines of an illustration of a scene gives kids the opportunity to practice this important skill, and adults too. Object constancy is defined as the tendency for objects to be perceived as unchanging, despite variations in the positions and conditions under which the objects are observed. So for example, a book's shape is always perceived as a rectangle, regardless of the angle from which it's viewed. And we hide books in hidden pictures that look like all of these. In fact, those probably all came from our clue boxes. So kids need to learn that too. To deepen our understanding of what makes a hidden pictures puzzle both fun and educational, we've conducted some qualitative educational research with an independent research company. And some of that research involved videotaping kids as they worked the puzzles and asking them to talk to us and explain how they did it. And through that, and those tapes are really fun to watch. I wish I could have shared some of them with you. But through that research, we learned that kids use a variety of strategies when they're solving puzzles. And I'm going to show you some of the things we've learned and how it informs the way we create hidden pictures puzzles. We learned that very often, kids start at the top left of an image and work their way around it. So it's really good to have something for a puzzler to find right away. So usually we try to hide an object in the top left of a picture. And you can see that in this case, we've hidden a bowling ball. Do you see it up there? Yeah. So from watching kids work this puzzle, we learned that hiding fewer objects does not necessarily make a puzzle easier. A more densely packed illustration can sometimes make the hidden objects more obvious. And you can see there's so many hidden objects in this picture, that's the answer key there, that kids are bound to stumble across objects that are hidden densely. And we want kids to be successful. We don't define success as finishing a hidden picture. We want kids to feel successful if they can find one or two or however many they like. But the main thing is that they are successful. Black and white puzzles, the classics you might remember from your childhood and would probably still see today in most Highlights magazines because we usually publish black and white in Highlights magazine. Black and white are more difficult to solve because kids can't use colors to limit their search area. So if you saw in the clue box of this puzzle that you were supposed to find a red heart, you're only going to look in the red areas of the scene. So you see the red heart in this hidden picture. It's in the roof. Yeah. So color is easier. And our research also found that if kids can't find something within 5 minutes, they lose interest. They're out of there. Actually, 5 minutes, I think, is a pretty long time. But we want to make sure that they can find something in that top left. Or I actually have talked to children who tell me that they turn the magazine or the book upside down to find hidden objects. However you want to do it, it's good. And they're better at it than we adults are. For 5 minutes, they'll try for 5 minutes. And then we also found that animals always win. Sometimes kids just love a puzzle because it has cute kittens or puppies in it. It might be a favorite, even if it isn't the most fun puzzle to solve. So in our research, we have been reminded that we have to create fun, challenging puzzles with themes that kids love. Animals, dinosaurs, etc., even trendy things such as unicorns. And all of these learnings have helped us create a checklist we use when we review an image at sketch stage. The editor and the art director look at a sketch and we ask ourselves these questions. Are the objects spaced evenly throughout the puzzle? Does the puzzle have the appropriate number of objects for the intended audience? So in our magazine for preschoolers, for example, Highlights High Five, we hide fewer objects than we do in Highlights, which is intended for independent readers 6 and up. Are the objects familiar to the intended audience? So if you could look in our archives and look at puzzles we completed in previous decades, you'll see that we hid things like dial telephones. And for a while, we hid vinyl albums, and then we stopped that, but now we could do that again. It's funny how things go around. We probably wouldn't hide a CD just now in a hidden picture puzzle. So we want to make sure that kids know what they're looking for. Are any of the objects inappropriate? We wouldn't hide a wine goblet, for example, in a puzzle for kids. Are the objects hidden in a place where they'd naturally be? So we wouldn't hide a fish in water or a bird in a tree. It's too easy. There's no fun in that. And it isn't really truly what we consider to be a hidden object. And this is the one our illustrators dislike the most. Are any objects in an awkward or inappropriate position? So we might hide a teacup in the shoulder of a girl's shirt, but we would never, ever, ever hide a ruler or a carrot in the inseam of a boy's jeans. Hi. And it's a crazy job looking for those kinds of things, but you'd be surprised how often that comes up. On a rare occasion, we miss it and we hear about it, but not often. And it's not intentional, but it does happen. Are any objects, and is there a balance of easy to find and hard to find objects? Because again, we want kids to get hooked, to feel engaged, to feel successful right away. We also want them to be challenged. We don't want it to be too easy. So here's the revised sketch in which we asked that illustrator all those questions, made some suggestions, and the illustrator took into account all the feedback, spaced things out a little differently, eliminated a couple objects, made it a better hidden picture. It's a lot of detail that happens, a lot of detailed attention that has to occur. Then after we get the revised sketch back from the illustrator, the art goes into layout and we're looking for different things. And this is where the editors really get kind of nitty gritty about their work and love it. We ask ourselves, are all the objects in the clue box in the puzzle? Sometimes they're not. Are all the objects in the puzzle in the clue box? Does the puzzle match the answer key? Are objects in the clue box the same size as they appear in the big scene? So for example, we would not, if a pencil is this big in the actual scene, we wouldn't show it this big in the clue box. It would be kind of unfair to children. Are any objects cut off by the border? That happens sometimes. Are objects that are near each other in the puzzle too close in the clue box? And are objects in the clue box around the puzzle the clue box, the part of the clue box that's near the puzzle, are there objects there that are too close to where they appear in the puzzle? That would make it too easy as well. So we get really pretty careful about what happens. This is how you make a real primo hidden picture. So you might think it's easy to draw a big illustration and hide tiny pictures within it, but there's a real craft to it, and it requires skill and careful planning on the part of the artist. And we've had some wonderful illustrators try this, and some of them liked it and have learned to do it, and others have said, nope, that's kind of a whole different thing, and it's not my thing. We are fortunate to have a stable of really wonderful hidden pictures illustrators. And well, you can imagine that we've created 10,000 of them. Several years ago, many of our top hidden picture illustrators came to our editorial offices, and we had this wonderful hidden picture summit where we trained some newbies. We talked about how hidden pictures are created. We honored Tim Davis, our hidden pictures illustrator, who has done more hidden picture puzzles than anybody. He's created more than 700. It's interesting to talk to him. He'll tell you if he goes to the park and takes a walk or something, and he looks up at the trees and he sees some negative space between the branches and he sees a fish or he sees a dino head, he just can't stop. But these are, well, any guesses on what is the most common? Well, hold that thought. These are the 7 ways that are most commonly used to hide objects in our hidden pictures. The first is line work. And in this approach, lines are adjusted to hide an image in its surroundings. So here you can see in this game controller, we've adjusted the line to hide a fish hook. Do you see it there on the left? Another way to hide hidden objects is substitution. So in this hidden picture, the needle is substituting as the narwhal's horn, which I thought was very clever. If it hadn't been circled, I think you would have found it easier to spot. Repetition and change is another approach an illustrator uses, and that is when an object is part of a repeating sequence. So here you'll see the bell in the bottom, that repeating pattern around the carousel. And again, try to picture it without that circle. I wanted to circle them because it takes adults sometimes a long time to find hidden objects that I didn't want to run over. Pattern shift, instead of a repeated sequence, this pattern used in the picture disguises the object. So you can see here how the stonework pattern on that wall easily camouflages a pear. It's a little faint. 1+1 is my favorite way to hide the objects because it's so clever. So you can see that the carrot is formed by the lava coming down the volcano and the smoke coming out of the top. And then my helper drew the blue circle in the wrong place, but I left it because I think it's kind of fun for you to try to find the teacup. And I'll give you a clue. It's formed by part of the cloud and a part of the palm tree trunk. See it there? Yeah. So that's 1+1. We gave them these clever little names. Hidden in plain sight is when an object that logically appears in a scene is swapped out for one that resembles it. So on the left, it looks like a triangular mountain, or should have been a triangular mountain, but it's actually a sideways slice of pizza. And on the right, we've replaced one of those cakes on the shelf with a drum. And then negative space, where objects are hidden in the spaces between things. And these can be probably the hard ones for our youngest puzzlers to spot. You can look on the left without the circle if you'd like in the enlargement, but there is a teacup hidden between the octopus's tentacles. So some objects show up in our puzzles more frequently than others. And I was going to ask you to guess which one you thought was the top, but I hit the click button too soon. But I'm sure you would have guessed the pencil. It is the easiest object to hide in the lines of an image. And the other 9 objects hidden here are also among the easiest. And here's a fun piece of trivia. Well, okay, maybe you can guess this one. How many pencils do you think we've hidden in our puzzles over our 7 decades? There might be a couple Highlights employees here who could answer that. Donna says no. 3,000. We've hidden 3,000 pencils in Hidden Pictures puzzles. That kind of blows my mind. And we also hide from time to time unusual objects, and they can be harder, of course. And here are some of the most unusual objects we've hidden from A to Z. And I wish we had puzzles to show you for every object here, because some of them are really hard to imagine how they might have been embedded in a bigger scene, but we did it. Anything familiar and recognizable to a kid is fair game if it works in the image. Well, not quite anything. We don't hide weapons, and we don't show severed body parts. Although in the early days of Highlights, we occasionally showed a human hand or a dog's head or a horse's head, but we've decided that's creepy. We don't do it anymore. So my favorite is the classic black and white hidden picture. I think that's hard to beat, but we've developed many variations of the hidden picture puzzle that are also a lot of fun. And this is just a little sampling of the different hidden picture styles we've included in all the puzzle books we publish. You know, we have glow in the dark and scratch off and regular sticker hidden pictures and puffy sticker hidden pictures and glitter sticker hidden pictures. We even have a hidden pictures board game. And it's a puzzle that lends itself really well to digital. So in our Hidden Pictures app, there's enhanced functionality. The objects change color when you find them. And the clue box scrolls, which can make it a little more challenging. And we have another digital game called Hidden Pictures Races, where players have to quickly search to find 25 of the same hidden object, while the screen scrolls from right to left before the timer goes off. So if you're a Hidden Pictures fan, I hope you've heard something that deepens your appreciation for this puzzle. If you've never tried to solve a hidden picture puzzle, maybe you'll give it a whirl now. You can develop a better object constancy skill or figure ground perception. And if you're an artist, and we had one here, at least one, and you'd like to try creating a puzzle for us, I hope you better understand the challenge. And I hope we'll hear from you, because we're always eager to find new talent. I don't think we have any plans to stop creating new hidden pictures. The puzzle just has an amazing staying power, and it's almost as if consumers' appetite for hidden pictures isn't insatiable. We just can't make them fast enough. And maybe you'll have a chance to visit the Ohio Center for Decorative Arts and take in the exhibit, Ohio, the Start of It All, which showcases world-changing Ohio innovations and dozens of original works of children's picture book art. And we are a smaller piece of that exhibit, which includes 7 original hidden pictures showing different hidden picture illustration styles. So I'm happy to take any questions you might have. Because our CEO is here, I'm going to lean on him if you have any questions about Highlights in general, not just hidden pictures. He's agreed to help me out. Thanks, Kent. So thank you very much.
Was there a puzzle, like a hidden word puzzle? Or is that, or you had to find 10 words? And is that part of?
Yes, where the words are hand lettered in there.
From Highlights, or is that something else?
We have done those. Yes, we have done those where the words are hand lettered and they're hidden into the puzzle as if they were an object. Yep, that's one variation. Mm-hmm. And we put some of those on. I'm sorry? No, we haven't done a book of those, but we do put them on social media from time to time. And yeah. Yeah, that's right. We don't do a lot of those, but we have done a few. And they're very popular. We should probably do more.
Am I right that you that Highlights holds the Guinness Book of World Records for is it the longest hidden picture?
We do. We do hold the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest hidden picture puzzle. It's pretty long. Jen, do you know how long it is? 8 feet? 18 feet. Yeah, there's no hidden picture longer than that. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And not just talking, sorry, not just considering the hidden pictures, but in the time you've been there, what's another major change that you've seen over the last couple decades in terms specifically like since it came from like psychologists in terms of what kids might be needing these days and what you've had to change and what you do in the magazine?
That's a big question. You know, we often say that the world has changed a lot in 77 years, but the way kids grow and develop hasn't changed all that very much. So again, many of the ideas and beliefs, core beliefs of the founders still hold true today. We talk about them differently. Certainly the presentation is different, but the founders wanted to, again, make sure that kids grew up to be thoughtful, sensitive citizens of the world. They wanted to make sure they had empathy for others, that they would say grow in sensitivity to others and high ideals and worthy ways of living. They wanted to help kids grow in basic skills and knowledge, help them learn to think. We still do all of those things today, but the presentation is different. There's more color in the magazines. The articles are shorter. I think that's kind of a big thing you might notice if you compared an issue today of Highlights with an issue even probably from the 80s and 90s. We've had to reduce word count and beef up the visual presentation a little bit because that's what you need to do to keep kids' attention. Kent, you want to say something more?
One little piece. Because your question was a little bit about like what's changed with kids. And for all of you in the room, we have a book for you to take. So one of the neat things about Chris's role and the relationship that Highlights has had with its readers is often our readers think of us as like a friendly aunt or a reliable kind of source of counsel. So we've been getting letters, questions, problems, drawings, poems, writing from children as far back as we know. And one of the things about Highlights is we answer every single one. We answer every single letter, every submission, and we've been collecting them. So some number of years back, we decided that this collection of children's letters and responses probably shouldn't live in a barn in rural Pennsylvania. And we got to know some friends at the special collections in the Ohio State University library system. And we've donated all our corporate history and all of these children's submissions to the library, in part because we hope researchers could look at what are the issues kids have expressed and talked about, and what have they submitted, maybe how's their handwriting, their spelling, their language, how has it evolved over the decades, because it's this great repository of what were children thinking. We decided, and we've always just sort of been interested, and we look, and in fact, when I was an intern as a 20-year-old in the editorial offices, I spent half my time reading kids' mail. Like, we think it's that important that our editors and our staff understand what kids are talking about. But in celebration and in marking of our 75th anniversary, Chris wrote a book collaborating with all these submissions to look at sort of great examples of what kids have submitted and how we've answered. So we've got a copy of that, but we think it's really important, and you can look for some of, like, what did they say when Kennedy was assassinated, or 9/11, or what do they say about COVID, or racism, or what's it like to be bullied, or how do they help try to be good siblings? Like, it's all that range, and some of it, you know, let me let Chris, can you say a few words about what kids ask?
Absolutely. And I get to be Oprah. You get a book, and you get a book, and you get a book. Everybody gets a book who's here today. Yeah, it was an amazing experience to go to our archives at the Ohio State University and just look at this treasure trove of letters and drawings from children sent to us from our beginning. The interesting thing to me was that kids essentially are writing about the same things today that they were writing about in earlier decades. The trappings are different. Self-improvement, for example, is a topic that a lot of kids write to us about. They have a habit they want to try to break. And maybe in the 1950s, it was too much TV watching, or maybe it was, I don't know, they didn't want to get up and help their father with the chores on the farm. But today, it's they want to play too many video games, and they still don't want to do their chores, but the chores might be a little different since we're less agrarian. So that was interesting to me, that they write very much about the same problems. The book is divided into 11 chapters, and we categorize the letters in that way. They write to us about biases and stereotypes. They write to us about their interest in current events. They did write to us after Kennedy's assassination. They've written to us after almost every big world event, and certainly every national event, terrorist attacks, the Boston bombing, the bombing in Oklahoma City. They want to know, they want to understand. They hear snippets of these things in the news, and they want to talk about it. And sometimes they can't talk about it at home. We think kids write to us, and we get 2,000 letters, pieces of mail from kids every month. We think they write to us because, A, they want to be heard. They're looking for somebody to listen to them. And we write back because we want them to know that what they think and feel matters. And when we write back to them, they feel seen. Sometimes they can't talk to their parents about what's bothering them or what they're interested in. Maybe because their parents, they think, won't be interested, or maybe they don't want to disappoint their parents or worry their parents. So we always say that kids need lots of caring adults in their lives, and we consider it an honor and a privilege to answer a letter from a child. And I've always said that that's probably my favorite thing about Highlights, that we take that work so personally, and it's serving fun with a purpose to one child at a time, whereas we also serve it millions of children at a time with our products. But that personal response really matters. Kids write to us as if we are a trusted friend. And right now in this world, we don't always treat kids like they're the world's most important people. And I'm just really proud that we are able to do this for children. So I hope you'll take a book on your way out. And if you have any thoughts about it, my email address is in there, I think, and I'd love to hear from you. Questions? Our business headquarters are here in Columbus, Ohio, and we and our editorial headquarters are in Honesdale, Pennsylvania, where the founders lived and where they started the magazine.
We had a question online. Someone asked, where would someone submit hidden picture illustrations for Highlights?
Yeah. You could submit those to our creative director, Marie.O'Neill, O'Neill, at highlights.com. And she probably has some guidelines she can send to you. That would be the first step.
Could you tell us a little bit about the podcast? As a parent, I find it such a valuable resource. I just want to make sure everybody knows about it, but I'd love to hear a little bit about it.
Thank you, Jen. Jen asked me to talk about the podcast, Dear Highlights, that is a spinoff from the book. When we collected those letters from children and published our responses to them, we had a good response to that book, and we decided that another way that we could share what we've learned from leaning in and listening to kids. And every time you lean in and listen to kids, you learn something that helps you serve them better. And the reason we did the book is because we wanted to share what we learned from parents and remind them of the importance of leaning in and listening to children. And so a podcast just seemed like a natural outgrowth from that. So we do, I think we were just completing somebody said we did 50 episodes already. I couldn't believe it, but I think we're finishing our 4th season. And it's a podcast where we start with letters from children. we take a couple letters that kids have written to us about, and then we bring in either some subject matter experts to help us unpack their question and help parents know how to think about that issue in their children's lives. And sometimes recently, we've been finding a different kind of expert, a parent who has an unusual, relevant story to share that's full of insights for other parents. So, but it all is based on elevating kids' voices, helping adults understand and know more about what kids are thinking about, what kids are worrying about, what kids are confused about, and helping them understand or know better how to talk about it with their children. So thanks for that, Jen. Appreciate that. We've covered everything from bullying to child suicide, and some lighter episodes as well. We just did a piece with our partner at Common Sense Media on what kind of scary Halloween movies are probably most age appropriate for highlights age readers. So we run the gamut. It's fun.
What's the title of the podcast?
Dear Highlights, and it's available wherever you get your podcasts.
We had another question online. Someone asked for the international magazine, do the objects change to be culturally relevant, or are the objects picked because they're easy across other cultures?
Kent, do you know that question?
Yeah, I don't know if you threw the fact out there, but Hidden Pictures, I think, is in about 22 languages. So sometimes translated fully and sometimes in with both English and the local language. At one point, we were doing 1 million units a year of Hidden Pictures just in China. With COVID, it's gotten a little bit different in the market there. But generally, we have done some like specific Hidden Pictures, just a small number for foreign countries. But generally what we do internationally is we have a team that has developed the sensitivities to what types of content would be problematic in different parts of the world. And we just sort of exclude publishing that. So we a little bit approach different norms around the world by subtraction and making sure we select, working with our local partners, things that will work in that cultural environment.
Yeah, it would be pretty hard to replace an object in a hidden picture, but not so hard to erase it.
Right.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation. And as an avid highlights reader, thank you.
Thank